joining us as well, and we may also be having another board member join us there. So to begin, I would like to have us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any questions, or do we have a motion?
I would make a motion to accept the agenda. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda this evening. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has passed. And next up, we've got the Superintendent's Report. So Superintendent Jesse, you are welcome to speak when you are ready.
Good evening. Thank you, Board President Davidson, other board folks in the audience and staff. So not a whole lot happened last week, a little quiet coming off of during spring break, but I was able to take some time to meet with the Mason County Retired Teachers Association. It was really a lovely time to meet a number of folks who have dedicated their careers to serving students in the Shelton School District. There were a few other teachers from other school districts that now live in Shelton. And so it was just really great to just download a bunch of information of some history, as well as an opportunity to present what is currently going on with the Shelton School District. Obviously, I went over things that we are doing around the strategic plan. And then also just kind of some things that, you know, the case of what's going on in education, most certainly coming, you know, trying to think of coming off of this particular pandemic and thinking ahead. And they were just very curious about that. And I have some opportunities to meet with them, I think, later on this year. So again, really exciting. And then I want to thank them for hosting me last week. As I've mentioned before, you know, this time of year, we spend enough amount of time on budget and staffing. There's just an incredible amount of detail in those particular areas. Hiring is so critical. Outside of student and staff safety, you know, really is about the people who we hire and onboarding. That's why it's one of the 4 priority areas, again, on the strategic plan that I'll be presenting later on. So we're just, you know, out there looking at candidates, making sure that we know where our staffing numbers are at, where is enrollment, or if there's any shifts on that. Of course, our principals are keeping a tight eye on it. And then just around our budgeting, I can't say I'm a very happy camper today, but I will just say I'm a little frustrated getting the numbers from the state. Looks like we're not going to get a lot of the budgeting numbers, in particular, coming off of the legislative session last month, all the way until later in April. So we've got about another 10 days to go. And to me, every day counts, because I really want to know what are the specifics so that we can plan accordingly of what those numbers are going into the future. So, you know, when things like, you know, we're going to staff, for example, social emotional learning, that is in the state legislation, they're going to get more monies to it. I've been told that school districts with higher free and reduced lunch or poverty numbers, as maybe some folks in the audience may recognize, we have a high percentage in the Shelton School District. And so what are those numbers come to so that we can hire the right personnel to support our students? I'm already in conversations with our local mental health agencies and also the University of Washington last week. So you can hear from me that I'm really working and trying to get the details. We have a lot of work to do in that area, which is another priority area in our strategic plan. If you can hear the themes, but we do need to know ultimately what are the numbers for the different allotted amounts of money, and where can we direct those monies that we want for the upcoming 22-23 school year. Obviously, there's some things that we want to purchase this school year. Does that mean I'm going to wait to buy it now or wait to buy it later? So those things also impact us as well. So it's not bad news. It just means we all have to be a little bit patient. I think if anything we've learned over the last couple of years, patience. We've all built our muscles in that area. And then also just getting ready to do a number of things around professional development with the staff, including our school leaders and central office folks this spring. But we're really gearing towards what are we doing this summer. We're going to host a summer summit with our teachers. Really exciting to do that in August. And then really trying to build out a professional development plan for the entire 22-23 school year. So that we know exactly where we're going to provide supports in our focus areas, so that we are making sure that we are matching the needs of our staff, where are we putting resources, and again, towards our goals as a school district. So lots of exciting things there. I know the staff have clamored many times over since I've got here to the district about coordinated professional development. Please don't give us another one-off initiative. Coordinate it over multiple years, and let's have some clearer focus areas. So we will be looking to do that, and doing that with obviously our classified and certificated staff members who will be involved in helping us plan further and providing some sessions. So again, lots more to come. Just we can continue to keep an eye on enrollment. I don't have any new, we don't have any new numbers to come out around that. But I would imagine with the open enrollment period closing later this month, it'll be nice. I think at the next school board meeting, hopefully we can provide you with another update. And obviously our community, every kid counts. Again, we've been down about 350 since the beginning of the pandemic. We'd love to get those numbers back, those students and families back with the Shelton School District, and provide a high quality education. Speaking of enrollment, my last comment would be around starting some work around enrollment and boundary work. It's really our opportunity to think about our facilities. When we do have around 4,400, 4,500 students, some of our classrooms and some of our buildings can reach near functional capacity, but we need to figure out exactly what amount of capacity we really do have across all of our classrooms and all of our buildings, and what can be utilized, so that we know where we need to make shifts if there's any shifts coming, not just short term, but I'm talking about long term for the Shelton School District. So we want to make sure that we are prepared to study where would students go, where can we fit additional students in our classrooms, and just for what use or purposes. And so if there was to be an additional growth in our overall catchment areas and the boundaries for our individual schools, what would it look like in the future? So we want to study that information over the next year, about a year and a half. It's quite detailed. We'll be working a lot with the city of Shelton, and probably some folks also just from Mason County. So a lot of technical experts, more to come about that, but I just really wanted to raise a need to look at that so that you're planning again for the future, because if something does come online and there's a couple other 100 new houses, for example, where would the students go? How much would that impact us? How much would it not? So we just want to make sure that we're studying the numbers and prepared for options for the school board to look at when and if that so arises. So lots to come around that for the next year and a half. You'll hear more from me and from our staff. We'll be giving some updates around in that particular area. So with that, just excited to continue with this school year and finish it out and get ready for some summer programming and some work on our facilities. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Board President Davidson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Jesse. So next up, we do have community comments, and I will read the regular statement that we have around that. And then it looks like we do have 2 people who have signed up for community comments tonight. As part of the regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comments in person and/or by phone as conditions allow. If speaking in person, please follow the public comment procedure by signing in and stating your name and address at the podium when called by the board chair. If making comments by phone, please dial 1-253-215-8782 and enter meeting ID number #854-3386-9913. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open public hearing. So first up on the sign-in sheet, we have Sue White, if you would like to come up to the podium.
I actually have a student that graduated from Shelton High School, and I have a current student in special education in the portables. Do I put my name and address? Yeah. Okay, my name is Sue White. My address is 41 East Shadow Lane, Shelton, Washington, 99594. A couple days ago, while we're doing state testing, I advocate a lot for the kids outside of school that are in the special ed, for the socialization piece. My background is advocating for kids with special needs all over the county, also Thurston Kitsap, and we moved here from Boise, and that's what I did out in Caldwell and Boise area. So basically what happened is you guys were doing state testing. A lot of the kids that are on IEP 504s are exempt for their cognitive issues. And I went into, because they were doing movies, to donate goodies for the kids. And when I walked into the portable, to be very honest, I was disenchanted with what I saw. And I understand that the superintendent, I appreciate you talking about facilities. The campus at Shelton High School is beautiful. The middle schools and the elementary schools, the budgets, the bond and levy budgets have done incredible things that needed to be done here. But these 2 portables that were left, to be very honest, are beyond old. These kids don't have a functional washer and dryer, which a lot of these kids cognitive need this almost on a daily basis. My daughter being one of them, because she has, unfortunately, she forgets things 3 days after she's learned them due to hydrocephalus. And another issue I had was the kitchen, the facilities there for the kitchen, unbelievably small, not even able to do maybe 2 students at a time. The teachers there are incredible. I support 100% of our special ed teachers. They're doing incredible things with this group of kids. I can tell you from personal experience that my daughter has a family beyond her family at home. And that's these kids in the school and the teachers. I appreciate that more than I can even tell you. I know that talking with other special ed families through the high school is our kids have choice and they have EFI, and those are great. But while they are in Shelton School District in the high school, I just feel like we could do more for the facilities for them. They already feel somewhat ostracized, but putting them literally all the way in the corner, in the back behind the new buildings, it makes them feel even more isolated. So I asked the board to please look at the monies the facility. And I even encourage you to take some time and walk through those pods. They're using literally one pod, pod two, half of the pod. And the brand new teacher that you have for Miss Robin Clary replacement, he is off the chart fantastic. I could not say enough. Every single parent, we all feel really strongly. We want to support this group. We want to support you. So if I am meeting with the superintendent in 2 weeks, and Jenny, special education, that I have not met. So I apologize for not being here sooner, but COVID, being a type 1 diabetic, stopped me from coming in person. But I'm here, and I promise I'm going to be there for these kids, whether it's during Emma school time or after. And that's all I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the list, I do have John and Kathy. I'm not sorry, I'm not able to read the last name. Is it France or? Oh, okay, that's what it looked like, France. Yes, and you're welcome to come up to the podium, one or both of you.
Yeah, we were just wondering if there's a better way to understand what your process is, especially considering all of the recommended warrant funds. So if there's like perhaps a budget that we get a chance to look at that, as well as past and future agenda items. I apologize, we didn't really have a chance to look up what was going to be on the agenda tonight, so we come prepared. Do you guys put out an agenda ahead of time? And then also what maybe past agendas have been and discussions concerning the school board meetings? Is that stuff archived somewhere that we could access?
Those are all posted on our website.
Okay.
So past meeting agendas and notes from the meetings are on our school board website.
Okay. And then the fund warrants, is all of the itemized issues with these fund warrants posted as well?
That are all of the fund warrant notes posted on there? And I apologize, but formally part of our meeting, this is a community comment time for you to make a comment. And if
Gotcha.
It's not on our agenda, it's not a
Gotcha.
back and forth
Well, perhaps there
conversation.
might be a way we could find that information, just so we understand.
It is on our website, but I will say that's not always easy to find. So we can have someone from the district office follow up with you to answer some of those specific questions that would probably be more helpful.
Okay, yeah, that'd be super. We got another vote in the mail ballot for another budget increase. And so I appreciate the fact that schools take money to spend, but we're sort of like never ending, and our taxes are getting exorbitant for our home, to the point where we'll have to sell our house because we can't afford the taxes here anymore. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on with the budget. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I do have your name and your address and a phone number here. And so what we can do is, if you would like someone to follow up with a phone call, we can definitely reach out to you with that. All right. So next up, we've got reports and recognitions, and we always begin with our student representative reports. So Quinn, it looks like maybe you're getting volunteered to go first today. You're welcome to give us a report on Cedar.
Okay, so Cedar just came back from spring break, just like all the other high schools, and it seems that we're leading into a good transition into the third trimester. Everything seems to have worked out smoothly. I know for a fact that a lot of students have just started their running start classes. We started on April 4th, and we've got a couple of us going physically to Bremerton, and the rest of us are doing it online. And all of that seems to be working out, especially with those who share credits both at Cedar and with OC. And we have a couple students also going to SBSCC. Other than that, there is not much to note, as we just kind of had a huge hiatus.
Thank you for that report. And Richard, do you have a report for us from Shelton High School?
Yes, hello. So we also just got back from spring break and is the audio picking up all right? Is there a lag? Okay. So I think even this evening, as we're meeting right now, there is a running start meeting happening right now to prepare sophomores and juniors for going to OC. And then on the 14th, there will also be a meeting to prepare students for going to SPSCC next year. And so that's exciting. We're preparing students for college. And over spring break, I wanted to mention that the Upward Bound program at Shelton High School, they went to SPSCC and they did some programs there. I think they even did some placement tests to like help them prepare and see what classes they would take at like the college level. And then also the track team and I believe the girls softball team, those have been going well. And yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you both for those reports. Do board members have any questions? Or I know we're all getting back from spring break, so there was a bit of a lull in the activities, even though some kept going over spring break from what I understand too. But thank you both for coming to the meeting and letting us know what's going on there at your schools. And now 5.02, we are going to do a budget status report for January and February with Brenda.
Good evening. Scott, can we put that up on the screen? Thank you. In your board packet, you have the January and February fund balance report for all of our funds. I will just go through the February balance since that's the latest that we have balanced to for each fund. So general fund, we ended February with $892,347.81. Capital project fund, we ended February with $6,441.82. Just a reminder, we have the payments from the non-high districts coming in on June 1st again in that, so that will help keep that fund going. Debt service fund, we had February balance is $590,434.90. April is tax collection month, as we all know. So that will be growing to pay the bond payment on June 1st also. Associated Student Body Fund ended February with $523,630.42. Transportation Vehicle Fund ended February with $247,782.28. I'm pleased to let you know on that, our new Director of Transportation, Don Hall, is out actively looking for new buses for us. So he's getting bids and getting some new buses on the road. And then, of course, our Private Purpose Trust Fund, which holds the 3 scholarship accounts, the Drake Scholarship, Mike Johnson Memorial, and Bulk Memorial, totaled $235,579.88 at the end of February. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Brenda this evening? I'm not seeing any. It's always very straightforward.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going into the consent agenda, which, as you can see, there are a number of different items on there. And it's, again, our usual warrants that are going through, different proposed student body fund warrants.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. Now we're going into discussion and action items. And the first one up is 7.01, which was our proposed Shelton School Board operating principles. And if you all got your board packet, you were able to see there was the revision that we had all seen. Otherwise, everything else has stayed the same. So if we are in agreement with that, there can be a motion to approve that, and that will then go up on our website as well.
I like the preamble that was added. I think it touched on a lot of the areas of concern that people might have had. And so with that, I could make a motion to approve the Shelton School Board guiding principles.
A motion to second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Shelton School Board operating principles. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the school board operating principles have passed. And now we're going to 7.02, which is the proposed strategic plan, which Superintendent Jesse will make any further comments about. That was also in our board packet to see, and I don't believe there were any changes to that, but Superintendent, please let us know if I'm missing something.
Sure. Thanks, Board President Davidson and other board directors. There has been, I'll just start off with a little bit of, again, history. The last board meeting gave a lengthy presentation on the drafted strategic plan that is in front of you this evening. Since that time, I have heard back from the Squaxin Island Native American tribe, and they were able to provide us with a little bit of a different language in the beginning of the equity statement, in particular, wanting us to recognize, that we are serving their students. And really, so I changed a little bit about location and really about serving their students, and also the Skokomish Native American tribe as well, and the students who identify through those particular tribal governments. So that just is a small revision to it. You can see that in the equity statement when you look at it. And again, that's based on feedback directly from them. They were able to get back to me last week and confirm that. So it's gone through both Skokomish and also Squaxin Island. So I feel really good about that. It took a little bit longer than anticipated, but it was it's important to make sure that we work closely with our partners. But there is no other revisions outside of that. I would like to pull back and to say this has been an incredible amount of work for a lot of folks. I feel a little abashed to be the forefront of it when in all reality, I was in the back of helping to provide some direction to it, but it's really the legwork for our strategic plan steering committee, who did a tremendous amount of lifting. They spent many evenings, both online and in person, over at at Cedar High School, to wrestle with some of the language that you have in front of you. They're ultimately were the ones that help craft the language that we have for our mission, our vision, our equity statement, and our belief statements. Now, granted, we took a lot of that information from both the survey and the focus groups, their own outreach. The principals obviously had a lot of input on that, but it came to this point today, and hearing from the school board at the last meeting just is pretty reflective. I think of our community in general. The Mason County Retired Teachers Association was super thrilled. They love what we're focusing on, and just excited to have a plan that is, as well, it looks kind of simple. It actually is very comprehensive and has many fold-ins after this, and about all the activities that we're already lifting in on. Again, thanks to the school board, tremendously able to take action, because we have no time to waste in best serving our students, and our staff really do need the details. Can barely keep them at bay today because they want to know even more. And as I like to say, tonight is the vote to approve it. So there's only so much we can go get ahead of ourselves. Plus, again, as I mentioned earlier, was just around budgeting. Budgeting is a big impact about where things go and what we're funding and how much we can fund it. which dollars coming from which pools of money do ultimately indicate how much we're going to do and where we can go. I think the good news is that I think the energy behind the strategic plan is great. We'll be having a kickoff session in May, but I'm just really proud of so many of our students, our staff, our families, our business leaders for providing their time and energy to make sure that our plan is reflective of our community. It shares their values and what we need to focus on. I thank our staff tremendously for putting their energy forward to making sure that we again have specific initiatives and strategies that will undergird and support ultimately the strategic plan that I'm presenting this evening. So with that, my hope is that tonight we're able to take a monumental step and ultimately approve the strategic plan that will help guide a lot of our energies and focus for the next 5 years.
Yes, thank you. And I would ask you as well, I know that we did a lengthy presentation in the last in-person school board meeting, but when we pass this, will this information then be put on our website, and how else will it be communicated to parents and families and community members that may not have been to the school board meeting or, you know, looking at things online?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. It's kind of a little bit of a slow rollout. So there'll be information already on our website this week. We already planned for that. But the details and information, we're planning to do mailings. So there'll be stuff that pushed out. There'll be things that we'll be letting families know. But we do have to kind of build out a little bit more detail with our internal staff before we can go that much more detailed, you know, about what we have. So the things that you see tonight, the things that are our belief statements and the priority areas are things that we will post up there. But the details about all the actions that come with that's got to come later on over the next 6 weeks, 8 months. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, all the way to the end of the school year, just because there's a lot of people we have to do outreach with.
Okay, thank you. Do board members have any other questions for the superintendent? And it looks like we may have lost Sandy for a moment.
I'm here on audio.
Oh, okay, great. I wasn't sure. All of a sudden we lost your picture. Good to know.
Yeah,
that you were here.
I apologize. The connection got unstable.
Yeah, no problem. Did you have any questions, Sandy?
Just a couple of comments. You know, we talked about the 4 priority areas, and I'm really, I like the effective teachers and leaders. We had debated about that for a long time, what to call that priority area. And I think that really captures it well, because that's what we want is our teachers and leaders to be very effective with our students. I appreciate the rigor being moved a little higher up in the belief statements there, and appreciate the work that everybody has done to get all this done. Probably the only other thing was, I had asked early on about where was the family mentioned in this, and it's indicative. It's assumed in the involvement of all communities that also includes family. So I think that covers the things that I had been keeping an eye on as this develops. So I'm glad that it's here, and appreciate everyone's work.
Thank you, Sandy. Are there any other comments? Or Richard, go right ahead.
Hey, you mentioned like how more information about like actions to kind of like enforce or like bring to light what our like goals and initiatives and stuff are like that. So is like, what are we looking at? I guess I was just curious, like how do we plan to show that like what our vision is and what our mission and like belief statements, that those are like what we've enforced? I know you said more details would be like come to light later, but I'm just curious kind of what it is in general. Like if there's a plan or anything.
Yeah, so the key part of that, Richard, is when we have, the vote on the plan is key. You can get behind the scenes, as I call it, parallel planning. So if I know we're here, we have a strategic plan in front of the board this evening. It's a very big deal. A lot of, over 1,000 people have touched it. Once it goes, we've been working behind the scenes to do things like I had mentioned at the last meeting, like offering that pre-algebra prep class for up to 60 students, over the summer, required reading for everyone, classroom libraries, professional development for staff, all those things are in play. So kind of got a lot of things waiting, and then they will, continue to develop and eventually happen here already this spring, and most certainly over the summer are more immediate actions. And then as things unfold, things build out over 5 years. The one thing that maybe, as students you might not see, but you've been, both you and Quinn have for sure been here, Aubrey too, around when you had those presentations on those school improvement plans. When you see the principals giving those plans, talking about what they're doing, that's what really is the most important thing. We have a strategic plan, but if it's not happening in all of our 8 schools and you don't see how it's happening at your respective schools, whether that's Cedar or if that's at SHS, then we're not doing our job. So that you can see how those plans unfold, you'll hear that from your principals, your school leaders, on how we're doing those things. And that's ultimately what will happen moving forward.
Thank you.
So just clarifying on what Richard said, I think he's asking if we as students are ever going to receive a full rollout paper of the meat and potatoes of the plan, like actual actions. Are we as the student body ever going to be completely notified of what's happening next? Or are we just going to have to wait and see how it rolls out as it happens?
So the students are already directly involved in some of the planning. So for example, those opportunities for orientation for the incoming freshmen, that's co-led between students and staff. So those actions, those things that are really particularly germane to students will be the things that happen. The rollout isn't as simple as I can just give you this, unfold this scroll that has all these things to it. It won't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of education ease into it, but there will be, Quinn, most certainly a poster that has that. And then a lot of details will actually be, which we don't have tonight, which will be a document that'll be right up on the website and is easy digest. It's got graphics to it. It's got pieces to it. We'll be handing that out at the schools. So students will have access to that, and also the families, because if it's not accessible and you don't understand it and our families don't understand it, that also doesn't serve us very well as well. So there's different documents for different folks, the technical ones that are way over here. And then there's the ones that are more graphic based, giving details to some of even the strategies down to the strategy level that folks can see, as Director Tarswell is saying, effective teachers and leaders. All right, what does that mean? Well, we're hiring early. We'll have words like that says we're moving to hire early. We're looking to provide mentoring for novice teachers and leaders. Those are the kind of things that we'll be putting out there.
Yes, and part of what we're doing tonight then, it would be approving the strategic plan to move forward to get into the details and then the greater package that the plan is actually going to be doing. Because right now it's a pretty bare bones grid of the priorities and the goals, but that's going to be made into a nicer looking document just in and of itself to use as the education for what it is. And what these are those guiding priority areas and initiatives, because there's a lot of things that are important in a school district, but you can't do every single one of them every year. So this is a way to anchor on what our priority areas are. So I think that if that helps explain some of that as well. Matt, did you have a?
To speak in gross generalities, we've decided now that we're going to backpack across America, and our end goal is the city of New York. That's our strategic plan. That's our strategy, is to get there. And our goal is that point. Now we come to the tactical objectives. What kind of shoes are we going to wear? How far are we going to walk every day? What are the things that are we going to do to sustain us to get that far? And we had to decide to go to New York by, foot with backpacks to get to making those tactical objectives. And that's what we're there now. And those are the things that you're going to see daily, is those changes when we figure out how we're getting there. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Super.
So with that, I don't know if there are any other questions or any comments that anyone else would like to make, or if we have a motion to approve the strategic plan so that it does move forward.
I move that we adopt the strategic plan.
I would second that with a hearty thank you to all those involved.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the proposed strategic plan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Hearing none, the proposed strategic plan has passed. Now we'll move on to 7.03, which is the proposed surplus of 1 van and 8 buses whose repair exceeds their value. And we've got Brenda to give us more details on that.
Washington State Patrol inspection of all our buses, and they have to meet a pretty high criteria to be on the road. And all of these buses, which the newest one on here is 20 years old and has over 200,000 miles, as you can see, don't meet that criteria, and it's very expensive to get them up to par to meet that inspection. So we would like to have you declare these as surplus. What we will do is send them out to the Washington Association of Pupil Transportation with photos to see if any other school districts would be interested. What we typically find is nobody else wants them unless they need a scrap bus for parts. And then once that happens, if nobody wants them, we'll put them out locally, advertise for bid, and see if anyone locally wants to buy them. Sometimes we'll get that. And if not, we will sell them for scrap metal. So I would request your approval of the 8 buses and 1 van this evening.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Have these buses and vehicles already been replaced, or are we surplusing and then purchasing?
No, they are actually extras on our lot, and we would like to make that space. So when we buy the new buses, we have room on the lot.
They're low mileage compared to my vehicle, so I think this is very good.
Yeah. They've long come off our depreciation schedule, so we don't get any money from the state.
Understand. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Brenda? Or is there a motion for this?
Make a motion to accept or
All right, Marilyn has made the motion to surplus the 1 van and 8 buses. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to surplus the 1 van and 8 buses. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the proposed surplus of 1 van and 8 buses has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And now we've got the final item under discussion and action items, which is 7.04. It's the proposed revised policy number 1250. And this is students on governing boards. And this is a first reading with Superintendent Jesse.
Great. Thank you, Board President Davidson and other board directors. This evening, presenting to you, as Board President Davidson mentioned, policy 1250. We needed to look at our current policy and procedures about how our student representatives serve on the school board. And so actually this was raised, I think this initially kicked off by Richard. Yes, Richard. You can actually at one point when you're later on, you can say I gave work to the superintendent. Is that we went back and we looked at it. It just needed to be updated. It was just out of date. The procedures also just didn't align exactly with our dates and the way we would want to handle having student representatives on the board. We also want to make sure it's reflected that we have a third high school. So we have obviously Cedar High School on board. So we want to make sure that we had that written into there as well. So there would be representatives from all three high schools, Shelton High School, Choice, and Cedar. And then there's just an application process for them to go through, really through their either ASB president and or their principal. Real easy, pretty easy process. Do need to have students in good standing overall, including at least a 3.0 GPA. They would serve their one term and just laid out some of the basics that school board student reps would have. And then I believe Quinn and Richard, I'm not quite sure if Aubrey was able to get some input on it, also were to help take shape to some of the input that was in, I believe, both the policy and definitely the procedure side. So we were able to take those edits and have that reflective. Again, this particular procedure I think is really good for us. This is again reflective of the business that we normally operate in with some slight updates. And then we know that we also wanted to cycle through at the appropriate time so that we know when student reps are coming on board at the end of the current school year in preparation for the upcoming school year. So that's really just what's in front of you this evening to review and discuss. And I'm glad we finally are able to get it up there and for us to get it updated.
So in reading this and a brief conversation with Quinn prior to the meeting, the last sentence where it says the student representatives will be from the three high schools, and then it lists all three high schools. Can we say that it would be one student from each of the school district's high schools? This would allow for population and high school expansion in the future, as pointed out again by Quinn. On the policy, sorry. Last line in the first paragraph of the policy.
We can do that. Chances are we'd probably, if there was a difference in the high schools, we would have to update this policy procedure anyway, but I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
If nobody else has a question, I can pop in with one or two.
Yeah, go right ahead, Sandy.
Okay. Yeah, the edits are pretty simple on the board policy 1250. I had a couple of points I wanted to have clarified in the procedures. Under section A, to apply to be a student representative, students must submit an application to their school's ASB advisor or principal. And I'm assuming that's so that they only have to make one submission. They don't have to submit to both. But it sounds like when they're defining the interview committee in the paragraph right below that, but the principal and the super excuse me, the principal and the advisor are both on that committee, correct?
Yeah, I tried to provide some flexibility here. Sometimes, especially with two smaller high schools, I'm not always sure everything's going to be filled by all the roles by internally, including the request by Richard about a student representative too. So I kind of opened up that language so that it wasn't just so much that it was Leyland just making sure we had a student representative, and it really is about the principal guiding that process, but that we did have another staff member involved.
And that's what I wanted to be sure that there is, since we're naming an advisor, that each building has an advisor to available to put on that committee. And then that was my other question is, how did the student reps feel about, should a student rep be on the committee? Or is that what you mean by expanding the language when it says one current student leadership representative? That could be a student rep, or that could be a student body president or such.
Yeah, for me, I'll answer my question. Again, I'm trying to provide flexibility. I mean, it's one thing to have guidance. That's what our policies and procedures are supposed to do. So I've got to, you always want to have to wrestle with the too much language and it defines things too much, or keep it broad enough so that you can wiggle in, because again, not all roles are filled at our schools all the time. And I just wanted to make sure that we had some flexibility there. The one role I do know that will be a constant is the principal, so they can help guide that process. And I think the second question was back to the student reps.
Yeah, I was curious if they wanted to, specifically name student reps to be on that board, or if they favor the language that says one current student leadership representative.
Are you understanding the question? We're not hearing the question very clearly.
Okay. The question was, do we want to include the current student representative for the school to be on the interview committee?
Or the incoming, like somebody who's going to be changing over that?
Yes, in the interview committee for applicants for.
Do either of you have an opinion on that, our student reps?
I think I think that's actually a great idea. And I would be like completely, I think I would like to see like the next students that come up to fill this position. And I think like Quinn would feel the same to make sure that it's being done like responsibly and done by the right people, and that the people that are appointed represent what the students think and feel at the schools. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And you have the greatest expertise as a sitting, as a current board member as a current student rep of what the expectation is. So I like that.
I'm wondering if we need to keep it broad, though, to the point that it would be preferable to have this sitting student representative be a part of that board, but in the event that they're not able to, that there's another student that's there, because we don't always keep our student reps through the whole time frame. They may or may not be able to complete the appointment for whatever reason, if job or family circumstance comes up. So I don't know how we would want that to be in the policy. You don't want to make it too rigid where it becomes a snag.
Right, and that was the second part of my question was, is that language the better alternative to use?
And again, this is the first reading, so we can mull over these questions. That doesn't have to, if there's something that people want to think about, take a look at this. If there are additional changes to it. Did you both receive a copy of this proposed policy? So you can both read through it too and maybe think through if there's anything else that comes up.
If either one of us has suggestions, who would be best to reach out to about it?
Looks like the superintendent is
Right.
raising his hand for that. So if you've got his email address, you can email any of those questions or suggestions or comments to him, as with other board members, if they have anything that they come across when they read through that. And then this will come up again at the next meeting for a second reading, and it'll be recommended approval or conversation about it again. If that makes sense. So you've got 2 weeks. to think
And I'll
through.
make one other observation.
Yes.
In section B, qualifications, the last sentence, selected students should have some leadership experiences in or out of school and involvement in extracurricular and community activities. And I'm wondering if, if the students would be open to and/or community activities.
Yeah, I think that's a good adjusting of wording. It keeps it broad, and we don't want to constrict it too much. I think like Mr. Jesse already touched up on. So yeah.
Because somebody might have involvement in one, but not necessarily in both of those categories in addition to their leadership. So, okay, thank you. That's everything I had. I appreciate your contributions on this and getting this cleaned up. This is something we'd.
Yes, thank you, Sandy. Are there any other comments or discussion around this proposed revised policy for student reps? Doesn't look like there is. Anything else from either of you? Not right now. All right, then we will move past that. And we will go into the second community comment period. If anybody would like to sign up for community comments for the second period, feel free to raise your hand and you can go up to the podium and state your name. If not, it doesn't look like we're having any call-in people either. So we will go past the second community comment period and we'll go into board member comments. Sandy, why don't we start with you tonight?
All right, I'll do that. I just wanted to clarify some confusion. I've had people ask me about my attendance at the school board meetings. You know, before COVID came, you could see I was out and about at a lot of events and school functions. And so people were a little confused that I'm attending school board meetings via remote. But it really has to do with the different hats that I wear, and that each hat has a different guideline. So in general, school board members aren't subject to the governor's COVID vaccine mandates, and therefore vaccination status isn't an issue. But however, for COVID guidelines for schools, any board member who claims a stipend is considered an employee of the district and subject to the same COVID vaccine requirements that all district employees are subject to. Having claimed a stipend and also filing an exemption, the accommodation for my exemption is to attend school board meetings remotely. And then just to confuse things more, I also serve on the Mason Transit Authority Board. They fall under a different set of COVID guidelines. There is no vaccine mandate. It does not hinge on vaccination status or on stipends. So I can attend all board meetings, functions, and events with MTA. And of course, as a public member, I can be out and about at various things too, but not necessarily at a school board meeting. So I hope this helps to clarify why you may see me at some things, but not other things. I know it's a little confusing sometimes. And lastly, just want to wish all of the teams and sports and clubs good luck in their activities, and to wish everyone a blessed Holy Week and Happy Easter. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sandy. Marilyn, we start with you. Hopefully your microphone will be all right.
I really don't have a comment this week. I just also want to wish everyone, I hope everyone had a nice Easter break, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful Easter. Thank you.
And Matt, we'll just go right down the line.
I really don't have a lot this week other than thank you for all the hard work that you can see going through and all of the school reports that we're still getting. There's a lot going on, and otherwise I don't have a whole lot.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's the spring break and things have just calmed down and gotten quiet or what, but I want to encourage everyone participating in the audience and also listening via remotely to continue to provide information of things that are going on that we as a board don't see. Otherwise, we're limited in our access. Fortunately, I have a lot of contacts. I hear a lot of things. But we want to make sure that we continue to address the issues of our community and our parents, that we can provide the best services that we can within the resources we have and redirect resources through the strategic planning process, which I'm really happy with that we've got this now, is because now we have the plan and everything else that the schools do have to relates to the plan. So that's how we're going to be tying this all together. So other than that, it's been a crazy weather day. So I'm just going to end with that. I mean, if this weather changes anymore, I don't know what we're going to do. Yeah.
Yes,
I've
we might have snow tomorrow too. I actually had my daughter asking me if it was possible that we'd have a snow day. It was like, don't count on that. Yes, Superintendent Jesse, thank you for joining us tonight via Zoom and presenting the different things that you did. I'm excited that we passed this strategic plan and that can move forward to the next steps. I know it's been a lot of work with staff, with the community groups, with you, with all of the administration. So I'm happy to see that that's happening. I too hope that everybody had a good spring break. I want to say that I think I read in one of the principal's letters, we have 45 days left of school. That will go by very quickly. Can't believe that it's already getting close to the middle of April. And I know that spring sports have started up. So that's also exciting for whether that's OMS or OBJH. I think the high school had already started some of theirs before the junior high and the middle school, but they both started track just this week. So it's been nice to see that getting started up again. I don't really have a whole lot else either. I'm with Marty. I appreciate people coming to the meetings and taking the time out of your day to do that. And please do reach out if you don't feel like your questions are being answered. We can't always do it in the formal structure of the regular school board meetings. But if you have questions and you need assistance in getting information, that's what anybody here in the school district is here to do. So we're happy to help out with all of that. Outside of that, Marty has stepped up to say that he will help with the Drake Scholarship. If there are any other school board members that would like to be a part of that small committee that will review student applications for that. Otherwise, it will be Marty and myself that will do that, but anyone is welcome to assist in that process as we get closer to that. And I will also be sending out an updated agenda setting cycle now that we've kind of gotten through what I had already set up previously. So we are hosting in April. If you all saw that, the regional WASDA meeting. So we will have our region of school districts here in the Mountain View gym for that regional meeting. So that'll be good. Richard,
Will the student representatives also be invited to that?
to that WASDA
Yeah,
meeting?
yeah.
That's a good question. If you're able to come, I think we'll have to double check. I don't know.
Okay,
So let me get some more information on that and find out.
all right.
Because it's been 2 years since we've had a live regional meeting, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure. So this is where schools from, and I'm like blanking out on what our region is right now. we're Region 5. So we've got like Cosmopolis, Aberdeen, Elma, some of the Olympia school districts. So they're all going to be coming here. And I'm not sure what the student rep involvement is, but if you guys are able to come and I will let you know. I'll reach out to you and see if you can be a part of that, because there really isn't any reason why.
If there isn't room for them to be at that particular one, would there be a way to host at a slightly different whatever? If we could put out an invitation to all of the student representatives so they have the ability?
Yeah, let me talk with WASDA, the people that coordinate it, because it's not us that we're giving them the space. We don't
we're
put
just
on
the
the
house.
meeting. Yeah, we don't. It's their WASDA board that puts all of that on. So let me reach out to them and I will find out
Okay, thank you.
whether or not, because I know they've had students in other capacities just from the school that have been there doing different things. Whether or not other students want to travel from their areas, that's another thing I don't know. So I'll just have to find out. But I'd be happy to find out and happy to let you know. And outside of that, we don't have any need for an executive session this evening. So if there is a motion to adjourn, that is all we have left.
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this evening. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.